We are back with our trade deadline special here with the one and only Chiney, Ogwumike, Kendrick Perkins, Lowe, and Richard Jefferson. And we have another guest, his denim shirt, with us as well. So many trades went down today. Perk, I know you're usually the one to give us a Perk's word of the day, but I'm going to start with Zach here since he's our resident teacher, if that's okay. If you were to come up with one word to describe all the craziness, hullabaloo, action that happened.
Hullabaloo?
Yes. What would that one word be?
Not hullabaloo.
Mr. Bungible?
I'm going explosive because you had maybe the biggest name in this sport other than LeBron got moved in the cloak of night, in the darkness of night, out of nowhere, creating a brand new team in Phoenix. And also explosive because that detonated the end of the Brooklyn Nets.
Do you got your word, Perk, or should I go to Chiney first?
No, I got mine. Competitive.
Competitive.
Yeah, you know why? Because I seen a lot of teams making a lot of moves like they were shooting to actually make a real run. Milwaukee Bucks added Jay Crowder. Suns acquired Kevin Durant. Then you had the Mavs. They went and got Kyrie Irving. Like, the list goes on. You saw the Boston Celtics add Muscalo from OKC. So, like, teams are really trying to make a push, and they really feel like they have hope.
My word is legacy, because I think a lot of the moves that we saw this week are legacy-defining moves. This is the week that we celebrated. Yeah, I know you did. I know you did. We celebrated LeBron James becoming the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, and the Lakers are making moves to maximize, at least hopefully, them being competitive and not going downward. How will this move to Dallas affect the legacy of Kyrie Irving based on what happened in Brooklyn? And then, of course, Kevin Durant continuing to want to compete, leaving OKC, going to Golden State, winning a championship, an experiment gone dreadfully wrong in Brooklyn, and then now to cement his legacy, he goes to Phoenix and tag team and create another team. So legacy is my word.
Preaching that gospel.
I got you.
Get the fan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Church.
I cannot stop that, but I can say expected. I think the moves that we saw smart teams make calculated moves. Not ton, not like, oh, we're going to shift off our whole team. We didn't see teams like Toronto break it down. We didn't see teams like Chicago break it down. We saw kind of, as John Collins is still on the Atlanta Hawks.
Yep.
How is that possible? This dude's been talking about getting traded since the moment he got drafted. So, like, when I look at, and again, when I talk about KD and Kyrie, when I say expected, at the beginning of the season, if we said that they would not be in Brooklyn Nets jerseys, I don't think anyone would be surprised. No. How it's transpired, how it's gone about, I'm just not surprised. So I would say all of these things are somewhat expected.
The only thing I push back on is if KD did not get injured, do you think that there would have been an urgency to leave?
No, because I think it's really about Kyrie's extension. I think once Kyrie wasn't going to be given the extension that he wanted, Kyrie was going to be asked out. Once Kyrie asked out, then KD.
If they were still trending on, how many games did they win?
That's the incredible.
They could have won
part
100 games in a row. They weren't going to give him an extension.
Dude, you don't go 18-2 in 20 games just on chance in the NBA. That means you're a real team. That means you're a real team.
It wasn't about them being a real team. It was about the extension.
No one is arguing with you.
60-0.
You're arguing with nobody. We all know why this happened. We all know who eats the most of the blame pie for the disaster in Brooklyn. All Chiney is saying, and I agree with her, is you would think that people could come together and say, hey, we got our differences, we got this. We just went 18-2, and everyone is scared as hell of us. And we can't.
With Kevin Durant. Like, with Kevin Durant still having been the factor, we know at the end of the day, what do we say? Kevin Durant is all about winning. At the end of the day, all the noise, all the stuff, yes, he made a trade request over the summer, blah, blah, blah. But then when push came to shove and he said, no, we're not going to, they said, no, we're not going to trade you, he was like, all right, bet. Let's see, we're not going to do this.
Say we're not going to trade now.
And to triple down on what y'all saying and how Richard is wrong, they fired Steve Nash, got in Jock Vaughn, and they were rolling. So you thought everything was good. You could see the camaraderie, the chemistry was there.
Y'all are all a part of NBA programming. What about the Nets situation said that we weren't going to end up right here? It didn't matter if they started 30-0. If a player is not going to get his money, which we all respect, we don't look at other people's pockets. So if at any point in time they say the Nets are not going to give an extension and Kyrie's going to ask for a trade, they let him search for options in the offseason.
So at the end of the day, though, Kevin Durant, he's on his way to Phoenix. I don't have one word. All I'm coming up is hyphenates like mind-boggling and sleep-depriving. That's all I can come up with. Pick swaps, blah, blah, blah. Championship or bust?
Oh, it's championship.
I mean, but is it a champion? Like, they need to go for that. Otherwise, is this trade and season?
No, they have to win a championship this year.
Right.
Chris Paul is not getting young. He's the same age as me. What's my Cam? He's 38. They made a move. They gave up Mikal Bridges. They gave up Cam Johnson, 4 first-round picks to win a championship this year. Not next year, not the year after next. This year's championship or bust. And you talked about legacy. KD legacy is on the line.
Oh, stop. Stop.
Yeah, it is.
Stop.
We were with you and then breaks.
It's icing on the cake time for KD.
Hold on.
Oh, wait, we'll hear you.
Hold on, time out. How are you so quick to say stop when we already know, despite what he did with Golden State, it's always going to be question marks about that. He left Golden State, had an opportunity to win a couple more championships, when teamed up with Kyrie, then all of a sudden, all of a sudden became the biggest disappointment in NBA history. And now you leave and now you leave again. Now you leave again, and you're going to join Devin Booker and Chris Paul.
And
you're telling me that if he don't go and get it done with these guys, this is not going to, what are y'all talking about?
Kevin Durant is Kevin freaking Durant. Look. We can all sit here and I like to get back at the table.
I don't want to sit at the table.
I don't want to sit ghost hovering back here.
I don't want to sit.
We can all sit back here and play.
Help, Rich.
No, I ain't throwing out my back.
We don't want to sit at the table. We can all sit here and play we would love to revisit Kevin Durant's free agency from 2016 and put him anywhere other than Golden State. You look giant now. Sit down. Because it did raise all of these complicated questions. But if you're going to sit here and tell me this dude needs another title to cement his legacy, he's Kevin Durant. But to the larger point,
it's not what you do.
I don't care.
Wait, I want to hear the larger point.
It's not what you do. It's how you do it.
Go ahead, Zach. Hang on, Perk. Go ahead, Zach.
He's a two-time Kevin Durant's Kevin Durant. To the larger point where we actually agree, championship or bust is in a lot of ways an unfair standard because so much luck and health goes into winning a championship. But here's the reality. Perk is right. If you look at the history of these super trades where you trade everything, for a 34-year-old in Kevin Durant's case, to pair him with the 37-year-old in Chris Paul's case, both of whom have injury issues recently and always in the playoffs. Health is a variable that you are now introducing into the equation. And when you trade all that, here's the reality. Championship or bust, it might be unfair for us to say it. That's what the Suns are going to feel internally. If they don't win a championship and we flash forward 4 years and all those picks are out the door and only Devin Booker's left, and you're like, oh, my God, they are going to say internally, maybe quietly to themselves, it was a bust. It may be an unfair standard, but they got to win the title.
And at the end of the day, that's what matters, is what that their internal, that heartbeat to the team. That is what matters. Perk, want to have a seat?
I'm sorry.
We're going to come back. We're going to come back to this. We're going to come back to this. But first, I do want to check in. I want to check in with Bobby Marks because as much as happened today, we're not done. We still have to hit on the buyout market. So for that, bringing in Bobby here. Bobby, which players are you looking at to get bought out?
Yeah, I think there's 5. I think it certainly starts with Russell Westbrook in Utah. If he is bought out, or if he's, if they send him home for the rest of the season here. Patrick Beverley in Orlando, Reggie Jackson in Charlotte, Danny Green in Houston is one to certainly keep an eye on, and John Wall. That's the 5th here. I think we have to be careful with the buyout market here because on average, I think it's about 4 players a year that get bought out of their contract and sign. And for a player, when you get bought out of your contract, Malika, you get a label. And you're labeled a minimum player for the rest of your career here. And I think that's what you have to be careful for when you give up that money and when you go into free agency next year, that you are signing for the minimum exception here. And if you're a player out there that you're looking for that next contract, whether it be Reggie Jackson, you might as well just sit home for the rest of the season here, collect your money, and then become a free agent this offseason.
Very interesting. Bobby, thank you so much. We will continue to check in with you. We still have 2 more hours here on ESPN2 as we try to make sense of everything.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.